Hey guys, it's Mr. Marklin with Unlimited Possibilities Martial Arts. The video we're going to do today is some of the primary aspects of martial arts, especially UPMA's primary aspect, which deals with a concept we call follow then lead. So we're going to get into that in just a moment. He's going to push on the hip, create space, pop his guard open. Primary aspect that we're going to be talking about is awareness, okay? Awareness. So when we in martial arts, awareness is extremely important because you could know all the stuff that you want to know. I mean, you could be the best person in the world, but if you're not aware of things around you, it doesn't matter, okay? So one way that we actually train awareness is we do a little drill that I like to call the head down drill, okay? Really simple. Okay, so what Olivia is going to do, she's going to look straight ahead, and she's going to tell me when she sees me. As soon as she sees me, she's going to say, there. Okay, so you have to be kind of following me. Okay, so I'm kind of walking up. Okay, she sees me here. Now I was walking kind of fast, but you can see that. So her awareness of me I was almost in front of her when she realized I was there. Okay, now go ahead and put your head down. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm behind her and she's not. So that's one of those simple drills that you can do to understand awareness and how you can realize things before maybe other people will be able to realize them. Awareness is super important, like I said. If you know someone's coming, you can deal with them. Okay? If you don't know they're coming, then they've got the element of surprise and there's no awareness. So it's important to implement little things like that. We've got other drills that we do that are sort of similar to that. That you can kind of learn and really train and be aware of. Okay, so the next concept that we're going to be talking about, which is our basic, this is really a fundamental concept in UPMA. It's called the follow then lead concept. Now, it's really easy to know, to see that in like a leadership position. Like in other words, if I'm teaching him, let's say I'm teaching Bo, I don't know, something really simple, he already knows this, but if I'm teaching him high block, right, how to do a high block. So first, I do it as a leader, and then I go, okay, ready? And we're gonna start with one hand up like this, and then we're just gonna switch hands and block, and then I fix him. And then once he learns how to do this, obviously he can teach it to somebody else, and they can teach it to somebody. So it's a basic foundational. But we go deeper than that. We use the same idea in either a self-defense or a verbal situation or something like that, right? So maybe if he decides he wants to grab me and he's just mad at me or whatever, and he decides he wants to grab me and, yeah, take me. What I'm gonna do, instead of trying to fight him so bad and trying to fight and get away from him this way, especially if he's stronger than me, instead of fighting, I'm going to follow, okay? So he grabs me and he pulls me. Instead of fighting, I'm gonna follow him, okay? Then once I follow him, it allows me to take him off balance or get in a position to lead, if that makes sense. So he pulls me or whatever, I follow him, now I get in a position where I can do something, if that makes sense, okay? So that's basically our follow and lead idea. And next we'll get into acceptance and agreement, which will be pretty cool. Okay, so before we can follow and lead, we actually need to learn how to accept the reality of the situation, okay? So in other words, if I'm here with, right now I'm with Ethan, and he comes, let's say I'm just standing here and he decides, for some reason he doesn't like me, he wants to grab me and give me a punch, right? Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, instead of just trying to fight him, just straight on, which may work and may not work, right? So he punches him, no, instead of trying to fight his punch, okay, or fight his intention, what I want to do first is accept the fact that he's going to do what he's going to do, okay? So that means I become aware of it and it becomes realistic to me. So He grabs me, I go, oh no, he's going to punch me. He is going to punch me, so I'm going to do something about it, okay? Really basic, but that's where we start. So I accept the fact that he's gonna punch me, or attack, or however he's gonna attack. And then I also agree with the fact that he's gonna attack, instead of just trying to fight the attack, if that makes sense, okay? But most people will just try to fight it. Then he punches more, and now we're fighting like this. He's getting hits in, I'm getting hits in. Not a great place to be. So what you've got to do is, the idea anyway, of follow then lead, or from follow then lead, acceptance and agreement, is I agree with him with skill. Okay, so he goes to punch, he makes fast punch, and I agree with him. Of course, I have to have the skill to be able to do the thing, right? And then after I agree with him, I get in a position to be able to lead. Does that make sense? So building skill with that acceptance and agreement is very, very important. You can't just accept it and not know what to do. So he's gonna hit me. Okay, you gotta know what to do also, right? So you build skill first, and then you accept this instead of trying to fight it. If I try to fight it, even if I have the skill, I'm probably gonna get hit. Because I'm gonna be so worried about that and so trying to fight it that I'm not gonna be real and present in the situation. Does that make sense? So I want to accept it, but not let it come at me. Okay? And then follow the lead. And that's the concept of acceptance and agreement.
Does passive mean I'm gonna fight it, or does it mean something different?
Okay, basically what passive, what Leo's asking is, the two types of, what we call the two types of agreement, which is what we consider passive agreement and active agreement, or passive, sometimes I call it detrimental agreement, and active or responsive agreement. So passive agreement, that's not active, okay? So passive agreement basically means if I'm here like this and you say, hey, I don't like you and I'm gonna push you, right? So passive agreement means I just kind of let them do whatever they're doing, okay? It's the worst thing you can do for a bully or someone who's got a high ego, but especially a bully, right? So if I'm standing here and he decides he wants to push me, that's me being passive, just kind of letting the person run you over and being railroaded. Active is different, okay? Active agreement is I'm agreeing with the fact that that person wants to push me, but I'm not just going to stand there and let them do whatever they want, okay? So in other words, what we mean by that is I'm agreeing with the reality of the situation, not just agreeing with the person's intention, but agreeing that the person has the intent to do whatever they have the intent to do. Does that make sense? So in other words, if he's going to push me, I agree with the fact that there is actual danger there. He really wants to push me. His intention is to push me. But I don't actively, I move or I do something physically active to kind of prevent that. Okay, that's kind of what we mean by passive agreement and active agreement. So this is another concept that we talk about when we're talking about agreement. So when we're talking about acceptance and agreement, that's what we're talking about, is active or responsive agreement, and not just yes, you're gonna hit me, right? All right, guys. So we've been talking about we're talking about the themes or the important aspects as far as UPMA is concerned. We deal with that aspect of follow then lead, and within the aspect of follow then lead, there is acceptance and agreement. Okay, and then we talk about passive agreement and active agreement, really, really important concepts. Now we're going to go into some of the examples, which is kind of the fun part. The first example we can do as far as follow the lead is from a grappling position, right? So if he's coming in to grab me or whatever, and we're grappling here, if I just simply fight him force on force, right? So that's what we call clashing. If you just do force on force, then basically whoever's stronger wins. Does that make sense? But if I can understand how to follow his motion, okay? Now there's skill levels in following, okay? There's really shallow or first level skill level of following, let's say it's down here, which is basically when he makes an obvious push and like he comes backwards and he really gives me a really, yeah, like that, that's an obvious push, okay? So if he gives me a slow, obvious push like that, the skill level, okay, it's gonna be a lot easier for me to be able to use a technique to move out the way, or even for me to just move out the way, right? But, or if he just comes running from afar off, okay, that's really easy. But the better you get at it, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. In other words, the big move gets smaller, big moves. So if I'm here and he gives me a push, small push, right? So if he gives me a small push, I've got to be able to use that to follow that small push, right? So he gives me a small push, I follow it, and I can use it. Okay, maybe he gives me a small pull, right? I follow it, I can use that. Okay, so that's the idea of follow then lead. You follow first, right? And then you can lead. Okay, but you never just, if he pushes, I don't just push back on him, then we're in a standstill. Okay, so that's why it's a basic, it's what we consider a basic technique, because you're going from just basically using the person's energy. That's what you hear people do. So from a grappling standpoint, maybe if we take judo, right, it's real simple. Judo does kazushi, what they call kazushi, which just means, well, it basically means to start the unbalancing of the opponent. It actually has a little bit more meaning than that, but we're going to use that because it's simple. So basically to start the opponent to get them to unbalance so that you can do a throw, okay? So So a kazushi might be, I might come here like this to be able to get into a position where I can throw him. I probably wouldn't pull him down, but I might pull him down so that he reacts by popping up, and then I bring him up, and that allows me to get in the position to throw whichever throw I want to do. Maybe a kazushi is this. Maybe I pull him this way, and then I pull him this way, and I can sweep, okay, from that standpoint, okay? So different motions allow you to do that. So from right here, maybe I just bring his arms up, okay? So maybe I come under and bring his arms up nice and high so that I can drop down and throw him, okay? So different ideas, but different ways of unbalancing him. This is that first level, okay, to be able to understand how to do that. Okay, the next, so that's follow the lead. That's if he gives me something, okay, then I can kazushi him, and then I can start the leading process, okay, to where I am the person kind of in command of the situation. And that's why following is so important. It's just like if you're talking to someone verbally and someone comes at you and like, I don't like you, or you said this, or blah, blah, blah. If you actually will agree with them first, it actually calms them down usually a little bit at least. And then you can try to figure out what is it that they really want, what do they mean, that sort of thing. And that can really help with mitigating the situation. So instead of just they bark at you and you bark at them, and then you're slamming into each other. So it's the same thing physically as it is verbally. It's exactly the same thing. There's no difference. And that's one of the things that's important, I feel is important, or an important idea that UPMA we do. We want to implement this into your verbal, into your interactions, into your everyday interactions with people, instead of just, it's not just the, I'm teaching you the moves, how to take somebody out, but I'm also teaching you how to take somebody out verbally, but agreeing with them and help them to see your point of view, and that's dissolving the situation, right? And we also do that physically too. So dissolving the situation. If he wants to push me, I might go, look, man, it's okay. It's okay. Okay? I don't have to, if he tries to push me, go, I don't have to knock the guy out or hurt him severely. Okay? Now there may be a time when you need to do that. That's why we learn that stuff, because if he's intent on trying to take you out and they pull out a weapon or something like that, then you have to defend yourself. You have no choice. But if you can dissolve or diffuse the situation, that's way better than anything else. As a matter of fact, to me, that's true martial arts. Being able to just diffuse the situation and not get all, ooh, I'm so strong, you're not tougher than me. Instead of doing that, we can actually just diffuse it, and then we can actually, maybe we go away and possibly be friends after that, I don't know. But that's the point, is to be able to do that. And you know how that is in our world now. It's so polarized. But if you can learn how to do these things, you can see the other person's point of view and just take that, just depolarizes everything, usually, when you do that. Okay, so that's one example. Another example, if we want to use follow the lead from maybe like a Thai boxing, okay, that's kind of fun, right? So if I'm here and he gives me like a Thai round kick, so I'm gonna follow his kick with my arm, follow it, let it go through, and then kick back. Okay, that's my leading part, okay? Instead of me here, he kicks, and instead of me trying to push against his kick and stop it, or do it again, instead of me trying to low block his kick, breaking my arm, because if it's a Thai kick, and it's a Thai fighter, they're gonna kick really hard, so they might just go right through your little arm, okay? Instead of doing that, I actually follow it. And then now, boom, I can come back, okay? So that's another example of follow the lead. We can even do this in, let's say, Wing Chun, right? So for here, for maybe in this position right here, and he goes to give me, I don't know, some sort of technique from here. Yeah, and I just follow. Notice I did not just fight him and we get stuck, okay? But he came in and I just followed his move and I left. In other words, what I mean by that, if you can show it from this angle, when he comes in, I don't go straight in because I'll get stuck right here. What I did was when he came in, I took this angle.
Yes, sir.
And then it's easier, okay? So I followed his movement by rotating my body. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
And then that allowed me to be able to easily come in without having to get stuck because I'm fighting him. Does that make sense? I'm not fighting, I'm going with the motion, okay? So it permeates us through all the things that we do. Everything is follow the lead. We can even look at the easiest way to look at it is in Aikido, okay? So let's say he goes steps and throws a punch at me, right? So I can follow, then I can lead him, okay? Really easy. I mean, that's the easiest way to see it. It's just punching, it's coming, go ahead and give me a punch. So no, give me a good punch, give me a good punch. So he gives me a good punch, and I can easily take him down, okay? Does that make sense? So that is follow then lead. That is the whole concept. That's what we're looking at. It's a basic concept, but it's throughout every single piece of thing that we do. It's in the verbal, it's in the physical, it's in the mental, it's everywhere. Go ahead and give us a thumbs up and a like and subscribe to our channel if you think what we're doing is good and you're enjoying it. So a couple of more examples. We're just going to go through some different things. I'm just going to work with Mr. Luke for just a little bit, and we may do a couple examples of some of the things we're talking about with agreement, acceptance, and follow the lead through some certain techniques that we're going to do. Okay, let's go ahead and do the defense. Now, one of the things that that I like to, especially with my black belts, but with all of my guys, one of the things we like to talk about is dealing with dealing with surprise, okay? And that's really important to be able to deal with surprise. How you deal with surprise is really important. This is another aspect of awareness, but it's also an aspect of keeping yourself focused or settled or at peace or calm, okay, in a certain situation when you might be scared for a second, but being able to get yourself back calm really quickly, if that makes sense. So if we're doing something maybe in a surprise setting, maybe his eyes are closed or something like that, and I come to grab him in some way, how he, especially we do this with self-defense, but how he can deal with that situation, or how he can respond in that situation, right? So if he closes his eyes, and I come up from some point and I'll maybe grab or whatever, and we usually do it as a grab, We don't do it as a punch for most people, most of our guys, unless they're really high rank. Then we do it a little bit different. We can train that, but we start off as a grab, so especially with the lower ranks, obviously. If I grab, he'll open his eyes and he'll start to do some sort of a technique, right? Exactly. Okay. So maybe something like that. Maybe he closes his eyes again. I grab him again. He'll do some sort of a technique. Good. Okay. Something like that. Okay. Maybe he closes his eyes again. Like this. Oh! Okay. So, once I grabbed him, he was able to become aware and figuring out what in the world is going on, right? And then he adjusted, or he followed the reality of the situation, and then he just did whatever makes the most sense. And now again, with all of this, the building of skill is really, really important, guys, okay? So having the ability to skill build toward that is really, really important. So an example, I'll just give you guys an example of skill building, okay? Really simple. So we start from what we were just doing. So his eyes are closed. Skill building is really easy. You start with the basic thing, the simple thing, and you have him do that first. So I grab him, stay back. He gets out of it, and that's actually what he just did is our white belt self-defense. So he did something super, super basic that is going to work even against a big person. Now I'm going to do something a little different. So this is another level, a little bit of a higher level of building skill. So he's going to close his eyes, but it's not majorly different. It's just a little different. All right. Good. Okay. So now he gets something just quite different from what he did the first time, because I grabbed him with two hands on one. Okay. So this is what I mean by skill building. You start working these things higher and higher, doing different things, and maybe even more strong things where you add more strength, more, people call it, what's the word they call it? Pressure, I guess. Add more pressure if you want to say it that way. I think, in my opinion, now this is just my opinion, you can actually have a person use pressure and you not feel pressured. To me, I feel like that's very important. Some people think that's, they may have their ideas about that, but I think if you can learn how to be calm, but yet still alive, like Bruce Lee likes to say, active and alive, but be calm. This is very important, okay, to be able to do that in any situation. If you're at work, it's important to be alive, energetic, but be calm, okay? In other words, you can move whenever you want to move, but you don't have to, you're not freaking out and going jittery, and that's not controlled, right? So the idea is to be able to control yourself, and when the surprise happens, be able to bring yourself back down to being calm and collected, so that you can deal with the situation the way it needs to be dealt with, right? That doesn't mean you don't have energy. That doesn't mean you're slow or weak. That's a completely different idea, okay? So if his eyes are closed again, I don't know, I'll just come up with something. So I grab him, let's say I grab him in kind of a strange way. I'm just gonna grab him weird. So I grab him like this, right? So he tries to figure, there you go, something out, that's it. Okay. And he traps me up. I'm sure you guys didn't see what he did, but he trapped my arms up, even though I was trying to grab his arms, and I did something weird. And this is what we'll do. We'll elevate what we're doing, and then we'll do weird stuff on purpose so that they have to try and think through while they're training. That's the idea. That's what skill building is. It's while the person is training, you're showing them you're showing them basic stuff, and then you kind of spread out to what people call fake, right? But that's the only way to learn, right? If you do something really strange or weird that people won't do, right? Nobody's gonna grab you. I highly doubt, even though I say nobody, but it's doubtful. It's not probable, let's put it that way. It's possible someone might grab you like that. But it's not a problem. Most people aren't. If they're going to try to take you away, they're not going to grab you here and grab your shoulder like this. This is what I did on him. But if you do that and if I have him practice that, that takes him, which is where we get unlimited possibilities from. That takes him out of his box of thinking it can only be like this, and he has to open that up and go, what else can I do here? Okay? Instead of thinking it has to be this way. But if the situation is not that way, then what are you going to do then? So that's the point, is to be able to deal with the situation that you're not sure of, or that if a person's really strong, this is what I think people don't understand, is that if a person is really strong, big muscle, right, and they grab you and you feel like you can't let them go, well, there's stuff that you can still do, even if the person's really strong. Because especially if they're big, because nobody, I always tell them this, I'm small, so I can hold him really good like this. Because I'm small, so I can cover all the spaces, if that makes sense. I mean, I'm not super small, but I'm not huge. If I was huge, I would have more gaps. Does that make sense? So even if I was stronger, I would still have more gaps. Does that make sense? Okay? To allow me to do stuff, to be able to move, slither and stuff like that, depending on the person's body weight. Now, he's pretty skinny. If I grab him like this, he has gaps right now. I can feel where there's gaps. Okay? And if he's aware of that, then he can use those to his advantage. Okay? Which again, believe it or not, that's still going along with the agreement and the follow and lead. If I grab him, he's gonna follow, then create some space maybe, and okay? He's not going to, if I grab him and try to pull him this way, he's not gonna try to fight me and go that way, because then I'll just use my muscle and continue to pull him this way. Does that make sense? Especially if I'm stronger than him, I'm just gonna take him away. What he's gonna do is follow me, okay? So this is the idea. We still want to keep that same thought process and follow and lead. That's what we're doing the whole entire time. All right, so he's, let's give him a couple of things that he can do. So we're gonna do follow up and lead, and I'm gonna throw some different strikes. We're gonna see what he does as far as this is concerned. Ready? We're gonna do this, so let's break this down and do this from a beginner concept and a building skill, even though he doesn't need this, he's already done this before. But just for the sake of showing it, we're gonna show how we build skill this way. So we're gonna start off with like a one step. So first, the basic one step is I step back and I'm gonna yell at him, telling him I'm ready to do my strike. And then he's gonna yell back at me, saying, try to strike me, fool, right? And I'm gonna step and strike, and he's going to follow them. Yes, yes. Step back. Okay. Then I'm going to do something different. So now I step back. Yeah. I come in. And he kind of does basically the same thing. Yeah. If that makes sense. He just varied it just a little bit. Okay. The nice thing is he's showing basically kind of the same idea over and over, even though it looks a little different. But he's kind of adding to it, making it more versatile and different things like that. And that's what I mean, is that students can start to get creative from a base, if that makes sense, okay? So, for instance, if we're doing Wing Chun, and we start here, we always start them off with what they call Pak Sao, right? So we're coming here with that punch, and then what he's gonna do is, once he recognizes how to Pak Sao, and he's gone through the flow drill, the basic flow drill, and maybe gone through the Huba drill that we do, even though this isn't really Wing Chun. This is actually JKD and Filipino martial arts, really. And then now that allows us to kind of free flow. And then he goes into, right? Yep. Exactly. But it just allows us to kind of flow with it and kind of have fun with it. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So he's striking me, I'm striking him, well, as much as he can, as much as I can, right? But the thing is, and this is a drill, what we're doing is a drill. It's not fighting. Some people will see that and they'll go, oh, they're fighting, and then other people will see that and I think we're going like this. But it's just a drill. It's keeping a certain distance, and we're learning how to move and strike and follow. See? And if we're really good at it, I can do it with my eyes closed. See? I don't have to keep my eyes open. I can actually do it with my eyes closed. But that's a graduation. You don't jump into eyes closed. You start off first with the basic A, right? And so building skill like that is very important to be able to learn how to, it increases your awareness, and then also that you start to learn how to use the follow the lead concept within the building of skill. Does that make sense? So now I'm gonna have Mr. Luke just demonstrate a form. So these are some. Okay. Okay, your form.
Foundation 3.
All right, ready, stance. Chamber. And go.
Form. Key hoop. Wood. Love. Life. Head. Frame. Is. Tongue. From evil. And. Is. Lips. From. Speaking. Deceit.
Okay, ready, stance. All right. Okay, so with that, we're still doing this same concepts, guys. We're still doing the same idea. So with some of the moves, you guys probably don't remember, but he started out doing what we call a single knife hand out of form lock and 2 punches to the body, okay? And if you notice how he stepped, now this is our orange belt form, so it's one of our basic forms. We call it our advanced beginner form, or our highest beginner form, if that makes sense. So he steps back away and locks, okay? The stepping back away is showing the basic idea of following, and well, first it's acceptance, obviously. So it's accepting that the person is attacking or grabbing, whatever it is. It could be a grab or it could be a punch, whatever it is. So he's accepting that, he's blocking that. And what he's not just blocking, but he's also creating distance, okay? So he recognizes the danger.
Yes, sir.
And that's what acceptance is. It's not just, okay, he's gonna do that. It's not just seeing it, it's accepting the reality of the situation like we talked about earlier. So I said that, he steps back and blocks, he's getting 2 punches, boom, boom, just like that, okay? So that's him giving me creating his ability to lead. Does that make sense? But now he thinks after he gives me the 2 punches, right? I'm hanging over, he's gonna block my arm out the way, and I'm okay. And then he step in and punch, or which will probably knock me out, especially if it's one of those kidney punches, or if it's a liver shot. Or this could also be a takedown too. So it doesn't have to necessarily be a punch, it's actually a throw also. If you're wondering how in the world can that be a throw, I'll show you right now. So he goes to grab or punch. I do the first move, outer, punch back. I do a low block in here. Now I'm going to step here. This is the throw. Okay? Does that make sense? So instead of being a punch, you're actually using your hip and taking them over and throwing. So this is, again, the same idea. So we accept, we follow, we lead. We accept, agree, follow, lead, and that's how we do it. All right. So very good. All right. Let's go with. Let's work on Start with the feet. Yep, just like that. Right, and it's under the feet. You can either come up or stay just like that. Or straighten those legs, or keep your limit. The more, the straighter your legs are, the easier it is for me to get around them. Yeah. It's, even this is still easy for me to get around. So I have to do this, do that. Yeah. If you, So, yes, correct. If you can bend it back, after that, yeah, you can use something like that, exactly. So, that's a good thought process when you're in here to naturally think of what pulls you around it. That's how I would do it. But if they're not very smart, they'll try to go out this way. Off balance. So, I'll be a little bit harder. Yeah, I like that. Good. Yes. Good. Okay. All right. Real briefly. Okay, so follow the lead. We're still continuing with the concept a little bit. If this person, I'm coming in, whatever, right? We're in a grappling position. Okay. Instead of me trying to just attack, right? Coming in, which is a good thing. It's not bad for me to attack, but if he's overpowering me somehow, right? I'm here, instead of trying to fight him and keep the position, I want to surrender to his energy so I don't use up my energy, which is a jiu-jitsu concept, right? So he's pushing real hard, right? I want to surrender to his energy so I can it puts me in another place where I can get into kind of a better place to be in. Does that make sense? Okay, now that I'm in a better place, I can think about the many things that I want to do. Okay, that might be one. Maybe I come up here, maybe I put this here, right? And I hook, and now I've got him in a position. Or maybe I get this far and maybe he rolls.
Roll.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's not what I meant. That's okay.
Then roll.
And then roll the other way, on the other shoulder. You roll on the low shoulder, not on the opposite side shoulder. Okay, so we're here again, same thing. If we're let's just say we're grappling, maybe, yeah, he's doing something, and I want to just practice to follow his energy and not try to use as much energy. I want to use the least amount of energy. So if he pulls me or whatever, but he's concerned too, he's not using up his energy either. And grappling is one thing you got to learn how to do, because if you don't, you're going to use up your energy, and the person's going to be able to do whatever they want. So, yeah. Nice. There you go. I just followed whatever you did. I just followed it. Oh, you followed that too. That was good. Yeah, I just followed his motion. He pulled me over and I just went with it. Right? So it's working. Oh, nice! He's talking out very good. Pick up that elbow. Actually, get this elbow. No, with your knee. Pull it up with yeah! Good. Does that make sense? Yeah, you don't need to use your hands. If you're down there like that, just use your knee. Always use what's available, okay? A lot of times what happens is, we did a video on invisible techniques, and a lot of times what happens is you have something there, but you're just not using it, okay? There's actually so much to use. When I'm grappling with these guys, I purposely try not to use everything that I can possibly use, because that will just confuse everybody, because there's so much to use, right? If you're talking about jiu-jitsu, now this is kind of advanced, but if he's coming, if we're working, everything is usable. Once he touches me, I can use that. You see what I'm saying? Everything is usable, okay? So as soon as he touches, I can use his see? I can use all of that. I just don't, see? Okay? I can, yeah, here. So I can use every single thing, but I don't, because I want, for me, whenever I'm teaching the students, I don't want them to go, there's nothing I can do, I just give up, okay? So I try to go more direct and more use big space between each move so that it doesn't overwhelm the student. And that's the difference between complexity and I guess you could say simplicity, if you want to say it that way. But you can be simple. To me, complexity is a bunch of simple things just worked into one thing, one motion, one movement, that sort of thing, or one idea or one concept, okay? So it's really not the same as, how you say it, it's not confusing. The only time complexity becomes confusing is when you don't understand what the simple, small pieces are that lead you to that. So it's like when we're down here, and all I did, because I know how to do a wrist lock, all I did was just grab his hand here and I just gave him a wrist lock from here. Very easy. That takes care of all this part of his body. Now I can deal with whatever I want from here. If I want, I can pick up that leg, see, and move him, yeah. And see, I'm still using it. See, if I wanted to do that, I could just simply do it. Does that make sense? But like I said, you can connect these things. Does that make sense? So anyway, that's good. That's what we do for our video. Okay, now you do that to me. Since you're a gray belt, he's a gray belt in our system. So okay, so now you use everything that I touch you. Every time I touch you, use it. Yes, yes, got it. Good, very good. Does that make sense? Thanks for making that. Okay, so a couple of techniques from we're going to use from some of the stuff that we do with our women's self-defense. Let me show you guys how that works. So I'm going to have Mr. Starr come on in here real quick. Okay, so from right here, he's going to, this could be off of a graph here. It'll still work the same. It can be off of a graph here. Okay, technically, a lot of times in self-defense, especially for women's self-defense, what guys will do is they'll actually grab them to take them somewhere, or a lot of times they'll grab here, or they'll grab here, or they'll something like that. So what we're going to do is just a couple of techniques off of this grab. We're going to do the same technique. This is what I like to do in women's self-defense, keep it the same, so that reinforces the main idea, which in our case, it is the shoulder roll over armbar, standing armbar, not ground armbar. So what he's going to do is he's going to go ahead and give me grab just like so. And then so what I want to do right now is I want to shield myself, okay? So I want to shield myself from him coming in. And this actually still follows our follow the lead concept, but I want to shield myself here by, I'm going to grab him back, and I'm not grabbing him to pull him off of me, because that won't really work if the person's got you real good, especially if they're choking you and they're really strong. Now, if they're choking you and they're not super strong, or they don't have really long fingers or hands, then you can probably get away with this and just leave. But from right here, we're just gonna do lapel grab. Let's say they grab the lapel, right? So I'm gonna grab here. And what I wanna do is I wanna go to the outside of this. So I'm showing it to you in this position from this point, but what I really wanna do is do it from the inside. So same thing, I'm gonna grab with this hand, grab with this hand, and I want to rotate. Notice when I grab, I'm grabbing with my elbows down. I wanna rotate over like this, and I wanna get close to them. See how I'm getting close? Because I wanna affect the shoulder. The shoulder is the most important part. Let's do it from the other side. So I'm here, especially since he's got long arms, okay? I wanna slide in, like so. And then I'm gonna come down on their shoulder as if I'm trying to lean up. So let's do this side again. I'm grabbing here, bring this up, slide in, come down on the shoulder, just like this. And if we're doing a judo technique, you can literally just drop, okay? But really easy from that position. We're gonna do the same thing if he grabs here. It's really the same idea. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna do something to help us, because if this person's really strong, he's really strong, right? I can't just get out of it, especially by pulling. That doesn't do anything if this person's stronger than me. So again, we wanna relax first, relax our body, let all our weight sink down first, okay? That's hard to do. It has to be trained because it's hard to relax your body when someone is really trying to attack you, unless you've trained over and over and over. Your mind thinks, if I don't relax, this person's going to seriously hurt me. It automatically happens, so that you relax, but you don't completely relax and completely give up. That's what I want to say. You relax so your body rests. It sinks, if you want to use a Tai Chi term. And then that allows your weight to drop down and allows you to move freely. Because if you're stiff and you're tight and you're flexing all your muscles, two things happen. You can't move very well, obviously, if all your muscles are tensed. You know, people think I'm strong that way, but you're really not strong that way. You're lighter and you're easier to move around, okay? If he grabs me and he tries to pull me, and I tighten up like this, if he's stronger than me, he's just gonna pull me easily. But if he grabs me and he tries to pull me and I'm relaxed, he can't pull me very easy. Does that make sense? It's a lot harder. Now I'm gonna tense up, pull me. Yes. See, he can really yank on me. Even if I lean back and try to push, he's gonna pull me off balance. Okay, I was purposely trying to come back so he couldn't pull me and he could. Now if I just relax, I'll lean forward. I'm leaning forward and he's still not able to pull me off balance. Does that make sense? So it's important to learn how to relax and then be able to go into the move after that. So what we're gonna do in order to get out of this move is I'm going to drop my knee down, or drop my elbow down, and I'm gonna punch up like this. See how I do that? Then I wanna grab with my other hand, and I'm gonna come up here, and again, get closer, re-grab with this hand, and I'm in the same technique, okay? So one more time. He grabs, bend my elbow down, punch my hand up, okay? That's how I get the leverage. If I just bring my hand up, it's gonna go against his energy going into my hand. That's not gonna work. That's what most people do. They try to go into his power. You have to go around his power. Does that make sense? You can't go into it. Nobody can actually direct power in more than one direction at a time, okay? They can change and go in one direction, change and go in another direction, changing, but they can't do more than one direction at a time. A lot of people think, well, if this person's grabbing me tight, I'm not gonna be able to go. But what they don't understand is if you go into his power, yes, you're not going to be able to go against it. But you have to go around his power, okay? So if he's holding me really tight, all I have to do is go around it, because he has to adjust. Every time I move, he's gotta adjust to it, okay? And his power's gotta change. His power intention and his power direction's gotta change. See? It has to change each time. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop down, which brings him off balance just a little bit, and punch straight up like this and go around his power. Okay, I say straight up, but I'm really going around, come face this way. When I drop down, I'm actually going around him like so, okay? So for here, drop down, come up like so. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab here, and this, as I turn, my hand naturally comes out. I don't even have to try to make it come out. It just comes out naturally, okay, because of the way that his arm is turned out. So I come here, and I'm going to come closer, grab this. I'm just going to sink. Okay, on the other side one more time. So he, watch. I got to take my watch off. Okay, so he grabs here like this. I come here. I'm going to punch around the power. Grab here, come up, come in, and I'm going to just sink down. Now, what's wonderful about that move, I'm going to have him do the same move right now. We're going to start here. So, first he grabs is super simple. Around. Good. Yes. Okay, on the other side. Yes. Good. Does that really well. Now, this one I'm grabbing, so I'm going to give you energy. Okay, that would be a softening technique. They'll probably work for him. Yes. Yes. Good. Good. Okay. He's actually coming straight on the elbow. He's not getting as close to my shoulder, but that works too if you know how to do that. Yes. Good. Now he's on the shoulder. Now I'm stuck. Okay, so there's ways to get out of that. I'm just saying, in general, most people will be stuck there because they want to stay up. That's the secret. They want to stay up, and you can't stay up to actually get out of that technique. So a good wrestler could get out of that move if they know what they're doing, or a good martial artist too, if they have good grappling background, can get out of that move if they know what they're doing. Okay. So that's a basic way of showing going into kind of a shoulder lock or armbar. You can also do what he did and go into an actual armbar with that one, right? So he grabs here. Actually, let's grab this. So he grabs and punch up, right? I do the same thing. But what I'm going to do is stay out further, okay? And I'm going to push. You can't see it, but his elbow is here, pointing this way. And I'm going to push down. Now this one takes a lot more precision. You have to be way more precise because it's easy to slide off, it's easy to go here. You have to be right arm on arm and come here. So this is the same move, right, that you can do from here. It's exactly the same, it's just a different point that you're using to control, okay? So those are some different ways that you can get into that kind of move, from someone either grabbing you, or maybe they're grabbing you like this, or maybe they're trying to choke. And that's a good way, and it's a great escape move too, right? So if he, let's say he's grabbing me here, and I grab him here, and I come here, and I come here, now I can escape. Okay, very easy for me to escape from him. Or if you feel like it's also a great move for multiple, like you have more than one person attacking you, right? So he's grabbing me here, and I'm coming here. Now we're getting into something a little bit more fun, more what we would do. I'm coming here, I do the same thing, and I come here, right? And now maybe someone's attacking me from behind. I throw him into that person, okay, using my hip. So it's great for that. You can use that person as a human shield. Actually, you do that to me. So. Oh no. Good. Yes, that one right there. What about that one over there? Yeah. Okay, so good. Okay, so that's some of the things that you can do. Now, what I want to do is go into a little bit of a question and answer deal real quick. So that's what we're going to do right now. All right, guys, we're going to do a little discussion on a couple of things. But first thing I want to do is you see Mr. Starr here, Mr. Josh Starr. He's one of my second-degree black belts. We're just going to be talking about a couple of things. One of the things that I want to ask him first, is what is your favorite thing about martial arts?
I just love punching people. There's just something where I can legally punch people. And no.
That's not it.
I would say my favorite thing about martial arts is, well, to me, I'll start with the sappy answer, is to get to know you. That you're my favorite thing about martial arts, because you've been my mentor for well over a decade at this point. But in terms of the art itself, I think I've just really learned loving, learning to love how our bodies move and the really cool things we can do. Because there's so many different things that I would have never thought I would have been able to do physically. And sure, I'm not doing flips all over the place, or I'm not doing parkour yet. But just knowing I can handle myself in a situation is comforting, but just also having all that training spill into the other areas of my life. It's really amazing just how our bodies can work, and not just work on our own, but work in tandem with other people.
Right.
And when you do this, I can do this. And it's not always an adversarial thing. We can work together.
Right.
And I think I've just really loved learning how to do that.
That's a good point, actually. I think a lot of people don't. There's a lot of people that don't understand that point. Is that they say some people do martial arts and it looks like a dance, but there's some aspects of martial arts, or to me, one of the foundational aspects is that it's like a dance in interaction with the person, with the other person. Because if this person, it's like what Bruce Lee says. He says, when he expands, I contract. When he contracts, I expand. So that's the idea. He also says it's like a small play, but the idea to move with somebody and not necessarily clashing into them. To me, it's one of the foundational aspects of martial arts, is the ability to move with somebody, which is what he's kind of talking about. But also the feeling of your own body. It's hard to explain unless you do martial arts. It's one of the things. It's not easy to explain because the embodiment of the moves, like you're feeling these moves and it's you doing them and you're in your body when you're doing it. It's almost like a surprise, but a spectacular surprise that you own. Does that make, I don't know how else to explain that, but that's really what it feels like. And even the higher you go, it's really cool because you get to accidentally, on purpose, create. If that makes sense. That's the feeling. It's like you're accidentally creating on purpose. And there's a direction to your accidental creation, if that makes sense. So anyway, that's a little bit further along, but yeah, that's really good. And so what has driven you to stay and continue when things get hard?
That's a good question, sir.
Well, let me preface it with this, actually. So Mr. Starr has been training with me for a long time. Let's see, since
I was 8 years old.
yeah, he was 8,
So-
and now he's like 21, almost like 22.
Not yet.
So
Don't make me older than
he's he's been training for a while, for a long time. He's a 2nd degree black belt in our system. Actually, I'm hoping he'll go for 3rd here soon. Even if that ends up, he's also leaving to go overseas, and even if that ends up me going overseas to train him, or him coming over here to test, that'd be fine. But he's been doing it for a long, long time, and so I just wanted to preface it with that. But what's one of the more challenging things that you've had to deal with?
One of the more challenging things, there's really been 2 things. One is my physical issues. Out of all of my brothers who also have done martial arts, and just in general, I've had a lot more physical issues. For years at a time, I'm at the doctor every single week, stuff like that. And some of those issues have impaired my ability to do certain moves. And that's been physically one of the hardest things that I've had to overcome, is just dealing with all of that and still doing what I'm expected to do. And learning how to safely push past the pain and work through those issues that I have. I'm honestly a lot better now than I was a few years ago, especially like with my wrists and stuff. And I think mentally, just being a teacher as well, the stress of having to teach students, which I love teaching, and I've loved all of my students. But just the stress of trying to manage a bunch of kids and then think about my own training at the same time has been quite difficult, especially working, or when I was in school still, and having to work already during the week. Not to mention any other interests I have. So I think just like managing everything and then managing all the kids, and then, you know, when something bad would happen in class, you know, maybe one of them would have a bad day, the way I am, that affected me for the rest of the week because I'm thinking about that student, because, you know, I care. But I think deciding to keep going after that, even though I'm not teaching anymore, I simply do not have the time to teach anymore. I don't have the capacity to do that at this point in my life, and especially because I'm gearing up to move. That doesn't work for me anymore at this stage of life.
Right.
Next stage of life, we'll see when I'm more settled. You know, who knows what I'll be doing. But I decided to keep pursuing my training. And I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to, I love it. I can't help that I love it. Even if I want to stop, I still think about it. You know, anytime I've considered, oh, maybe I'll just stop, you know, then I think about, you know, my black belt test and how that was physically one of the hardest things I ever did. And I'm like, well, something kept me going through all of that. And like, this situation really isn't as hard as that. But any other time I've wanted to quit, even if I do quit for like a day or so, I'm like, I think I'll stop. I don't stop because it's just such a part of my life. I just naturally do these moves and stuff, not like in a, you know, and not like I'm fighting people, but, you know, maybe I drop something and I react really fast. I think I was a really, really clumsy person before I started, and now I'm still clumsy, but I don't hurt myself anymore. And I think, yeah, I probably need this. And I know I love it.
That's a good point. It's another hard thing to explain to people is that you get skills that you can use every day. And a lot of times you use them and you don't even know you're using them, but sometimes you do. Like, for instance, I'll tell a story about one time I was working in a shop. This is over 20 years ago at this point. But I was working in a shop, and my boss was trying to play a prank on me. And he saw me, I was sitting at the computer working, and I have one doorway right here. And it was about 4 or 5 feet away from where I was sitting down on the computer. There's no doorway over here. There's only one doorway on this side. And so he pokes his head up right there. I'm just looking at the computer, but I see him because of my training. I always see out of the sides of my eyes. So I see him, but I'm not paying him any attention because he's not calling me or anything. He's just trying to sneak. I see him peek his head up and he looks at me. And so I'm typing, doing my work, blah, 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 whatever. And then for some reason, he takes a pencil and he throws it at me. And I'm typing and I catch the pencil without looking and I set it down and I continue to work. And I see him go like that. And so that's one of the things that your training just happens. It helps with a lot of different things. And you don't even realize it until you're in a situation where you're like, wow. So that's what's really cool about it anyway. But Anyway, yes, so we'll do one more thing and then we got to get started. I've got another class. So we've been talking about the follow the lead, our basic, real basic or foundational, I guess, concept, if you want to say it like that. So the follow and lead concept, I wanted to get your thoughts on that. So when we talk about follow and lead, we know you can use it in leadership, but you can also use it verbally, you can also use it physically, especially you can use it in self-defense. It's all the same, right? So
Follow the lead.
follow the lead, yes.
Follow the lead. Well, I once heard that every great leader is really just a great follower. And I think that's really true, that if you want to be able to show people the way, you have to know the way yourself, and someone had to take you through that. Even if you are pioneering something new, there's still a bunch of influences that have led you to that
Correct.
point.
That's right.
So I would say that the first part of leading something is following it. And whether that's, physically, through martial arts, or that's spiritually, or, all sorts of stuff, or like in a relationship.
Right.
When it comes to the martial arts aspects, I think it's a really fascinating concept, because if you're, I guess, in a fight, or if you are being attacked or something, I think your initial instinct, your panic instinct, is to either fight or flight, and you want to control the situation. But learning that you can't really control the situation, you can't manipulate every part of it.
Right.
You can only react to it. And so, in a way, you have to let the situation lead. But how you choose to follow it will change the outcome. Now, you can't change the fact that you're being attacked. Like, you can really hope, I hope this fist doesn't hit my face. You can hope that, but you can't just change it by wanting it to change.
Correct.
By willing it to change. That's a better word. But you can change how you follow up on that. And that obviously applies to all the other situations we have in our lives. If something at work is not going well, there's a terrible situation at work, and you're not, you don't like this, or you're having issues with a relationship with someone. How you choose to react is usually more important than what the situation is presenting itself as. Because how you react is pretty much the only part that you can directly influence. I've had situations like with my fiance, which have been difficult situations, or having to address things with each other. But learning to respond humbly and let that conversation follow whatever she needs to say to me.
Yep.
Instead of just trying to take control of the situation. Well, actually, no, I'm justified because
Yeah.
I did all
There you
this.
go.
Well, you see, you don't understand.
Right.
Or just instead learning to follow what she's saying, just humbly take it all. Be like, okay, yeah, all right, well, that's what I need to work on then. Even if I can justify it, do I need to? Probably not.
That's a good point, because I like to use the word surrender, even though some people don't. The way we mean surrender doesn't mean completely give up and lay flat and go like this. I think that's what a lot of people think the word surrender means, but it actually means to relax yourself and allow the situation, be realistic in the situation. In other words, just allow the situation to unfold so you know where to go. Because that's how you lead, is you pay attention, you listen, you're aware of the reality of the situation, what's actually happening in front of you. Then you can actually, that gives you the ability to lead after that. But you can't lead until you receive, follow, and then pay attention, take it all in, and then you can go, if that makes sense. So you kind of have to surrender. It's kind of along the same lines of what he said. You have to surrender to the situation. You can't will it to stop. You have to acknowledge that it's real, and then from that point, you can understand what needs to be the next step, right? And as far as like speaking and relational, that's pretty easy to think. But in martial arts or in a physical altercation, you have to do that automatically. That's where your training comes in. And it's the same thing though. It's best to verbally practice and learn how to do those things verbally, so that when you come into a situation where someone's upset or mad, you can calm them down by seeing their point of view or what's right about what they're trying to do, or trying to find out why they're feeling this way. If that makes sense. And so, anyway, that's pretty good. All of that to me is martial arts. All of that is martial arts training, because it all works together. It's all different sides of the same thing. I was about to say same sphere, just different sides of it. So, anyway, that's good. So we'll stop there. All right, so we'll see you guys on the next video or whatever.